After making his UFC debut on short notice in late 2020, Dricus Du Plessis has surged up the middleweight rankings, and this weekend at UFC 285 comes an opportunity to enter the contender conversation.
This is the first time we spoke back in the debut. I had 2 weeks notice, or well, 12 days notice on the biggest fight of my life while we were in lockdown. So had 10 kilos to lose in a little over 10 days. So the nerves were reasonable. And right now, I've had a great camp. We definitely had one of the best camps. I think this is my third camp in a row where we haven't been sitting out even a session with an injury or being overtrained. It's almost like we've perfected the whole formula of getting to fight night in peak condition, and I'm feeling really great. Obviously fighting for the top 5 in just over 2 years, with a few fights, almost a year missed because of COVID. That's a big accomplishment for me and for South Africa, and it's a privilege for me to be in this position. So, you know, in terms of my career, I couldn't be happier. I'm exactly where I want to be. I'm exactly where I need to be, and I just can't wait to get to the fight.
So let's talk about that, because the rise in the UFC ranks has been pretty remarkable, and you almost spoke it into existence. You mentioned we chatted before your debut, and I asked you to outline your plan to effectively to get to the title. You said, you might not remember this, but I went back and checked. You said 4 fights to crack the top 10. You've had 4 fights, you're in the top 10. So it's exactly as you predicted.
Yes, absolutely. I believe, I'm a firm believer in if you really believe in something, yeah, say it. Say you believe in that. And that wasn't, yes, of course it was a wish, it's a dream, but it's not only a wish and a dream, it's a goal, because a wish and a dream is something that's just in your head. And even though that is how it started, it's something that I worked for incredibly hard. And even with the adversity we had to face of being on the red list as a country and not being able to travel to the US, I've had the privilege of fighting on only big cards thus far. The McGregor card, that was a massive highlight for me, fighting on the Adesanya card. And now fighting on the return of John Jones. It speaks for itself what the UFC think of what I do and what we do here at CIT and out of Pretoria, South Africa. They love our style. We go out there and we go to fight, and we come in prepared, and it's always an incredible fight. Myself and Cameron just fought together on the December card, and we both got performance bonuses, and that once again speaks for the fighters we are. And like you said, I predicted to be in the top 10, and my next fight, this is a fight for the top 5. And I will be the #1 contender by the end of this year. I will be the next guy fighting for the belt, if not fighting for the belt by this year. It all depends on the UFC. I'm hoping to win this fight. Well, I'm definitely winning this fight. Then I'm hoping for a #1 contender spot. And when I get that #1 contender spot, that's 1 fight away from fighting for the belt.
The only thing I think that might have been frustrating for you is that this didn't materialize in the time frame. Yes, within 4 fights, but you had hoped to squeeze in 4 fights in the space of a year. Obviously, there were a few cancellations of fights, fighters pulling out. You almost had a huge Gastelum fight that didn't materialize. So there have been frustrations along the road. How have you coped with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And all those frustrations, all those fights being cancelled left me with bigger fights. The Kelvin Gastelum fight got me a new contract, firstly because I was outside of the top 15, and here I'm all of a sudden in the talks with the top 10
and
guys.
ahead of Kelvin Gastelum now.
Exactly.
Without fighting him.
You know, with that, obviously I was already there. That was a big letdown. 3 opponents for that camp, and you know, at the end of the day with stuff like that, you get to sulk for a few days, like one does. But the opportunity that came after that, fighting Brad Tavares for a top 15, getting an even better contract on a much bigger card, was absolutely insane. And Brad Tavares is, I believe, a more tough fight for anybody going into the ranks than Kelvin Gastelum would have been for me. And to prove myself, got my first decision there, and it was absolutely amazing. That was one of the hardest fights of my career, and I had to work really hard for that win, and it was amazing. After that fight, you know, the rankings didn't really matter to me. I was in the top 15. I would have probably been there with the Gastelum fight, and then I got the Darren Till fight. So everything worked out the way it should have, and I'm extremely happy with how things have gone. Like you said, the time frame might have you know, changed a little, but the goal remained the same, and the goal was achieved this far. And now it's on to the next, breaking top 5 and becoming champion. And everything, any adversity that led me to here, I'm extremely happy for it. We always ask ourselves, why did this happen? This is not fair. But at the end of the day, everything will work out the way it should. And like my career, everything worked out perfectly for me, and I'm extremely grateful.
But finally, you gained the kind of turnaround time that I think you always would have liked, because, I mean, we spoke about it, and there was a year gap between Giles and Tavares, because that's the 3 fights that got cancelled. I was kind of glad, because I'm actually Chris Curtis and Hernandez fan, so I was like, oh, my boy's going to go beat them up. But yeah, this is a turnaround of more like 3 months, which is exactly what it. So how did the Derek Brunson fight come into existence, and how much were you guys involved in that process?
Yeah, we actually wanted to fight maybe around May. We had some stuff to deal with, stuff we wanted to fix in training, little mistakes, you know, just to fine tune, because we knew that top 5 fight was going to come. And I think it was 27th of December, 2 days after Christmas. I was still on holiday, and my agents just contacted me and said, this is the fight for March. And we actually asked for it, can we do it in May? Because I wanted to get my nose fixed. I know I struggle to breathe out of it, but and just that's at least 4 weeks of not taking any punches. And they said, listen, Brunson is fighting March. That's going to happen. If you want to fight in May, we can get you another opponent. And you know, that's one of those opportunities, being number 10, being able to get into the top 10, fighting a guy that the former champion also used as a stepping stone to get to the belt. I couldn't refuse that opportunity, and just grabbed it. I said, I'll fix all this after this fight. But you know, when opportunity knocks at your door, you don't chase it away.
No, you can't. And I mean, Derek Brunson has kind of been almost a gatekeeper to the belt over the past few years. And I feel like the UFC have, I don't want to use the phrase, they fed you the right fights, but effectively they have. Brad Tavares, you beat him, it's a very credible win, as opposed to, let's say, Gastelum, for example. You never know what Kelvin Gastelum is going to show up, and it could almost cheapen your victory if, you know,
he shows up out of shape.
Yeah,
100%,
exactly.
100%. And that's the thing with Brad Tavares. You've never seen that guy lose a fight where he hasn't been put up in a massive performance. He's an incredible athlete. And the same with Derek Brunson. He's been in the sport forever. If you look at the names he's beaten, in his last 10 fights, the only people he's ever lost to in his last 10 was the champion, the former champion Israel, and the title challenger Cannonier. And before that, he was on a massive win streak.
5 fights before Cannonier. Yeah.
And those fights aren't just fights. That's all people that are ranked in top 10, top 5 of our division. He's an incredible fighter. I've trained with Brunson before. He trains
That's
at
out
Sanford.
at Sanford.
Yes.
I'm trying to still get used to, what's it, Killcliff now,
Yeah, they've changed it a few times, but I've trained with him, and he's a super nice guy, and he's, like I said, a hard worker, an incredible athlete. I just know that I work harder, and you know, taking athletic ability out of the equation, I work harder, I work smarter, and I do believe I have all the tools to beat him. And like you said, the UFC has given me the right fights on the big cards, so you get all eyes on you, and they would only do that if they like what you're selling, because at the end of the day, it's a buy and sell. They need to sell seats, and they need to sell pay-per-views, and they're enjoying what we are doing. So with like you said, the Tavares fight and then the Brunson fight, you know, yes, a lot of people would say Darren Till was maybe a step, but it's still Darren Till. Yes, he wasn't a bad run. He's a huge name, and he beat Kelvin Gastelum. So that settles that battle for me. And Darren Till, it was a huge privilege for me to share the cage with him. He's an absolute legend. I'm a massive fan of his. And I've never picked a fight. I don't know what influence people think I have, but I don't have that kind of influence. I don't pick any fights. As soon as they send me a guy, I've never ever refused a fight that the UFC has offered me. That never happens. I'm there to fight, I'm there to perform, and whoever they give me to go on to the next step, I've never fought down, and that's also a big accomplishment. The UFC maybe will let you fight one up, one down, or one at your level. If you keep on performing, they give you guys above you. And they do ask you, how fast do you want to climb this ladder? And like I said, as fast as possible.
I mean, with Darren Till as well, it also kind of gave the fans who only been following the UFC side of your career a little bit of a different dynamic, a little bit of different side. No trash talk and none of that kind of stuff, but there seemed to be healthy kind of rivalry between, and you matched his energy on stage, weigh-ins, etc. So it was good to see that.
Yeah, it's always great. We've always said, listen, I would like to, people haven't seen that side of me because they're not something I want to force. A lot of people want to force the persona, and that's not me. I'm trying to be as much myself. What you see is what you get when I get on that stage and when I fight. And with Darren Till usually being a loudmouth and being a trash talker, I would have matched that if that's what it came down to. But he was very respectful, and it was two athletes showing up to do their work and fight each other. And I have crazy respect for that. And even if he was trash talking, we all know Darren Till, it wouldn't have taken any respect away from him. But like you said, matching his energy, that's how you treat me outside of competition is how I'll treat you. But once that cage door closes, you could have been the nicest guy or the biggest a-hole, I don't care. I'm there to do my job and take you out.
So that's your last opponent, and your upcoming opponent obviously presents a whole new set of challenges for you. Derek Brunson is known for his wrestling, but predominantly for the KO power that I think is backed by the fact that he knows that he has that great base. In terms of how he comes out very hard in the first round, which is what a lot of people saw from you against Darren Till, are you looking forward to that kind of dynamic early in the fight, where he throws everything he's got, which he usually does?
Yeah, that's something we definitely took in consideration, and something I thought about. Like I said, I'm a massive fan of the sport, so I know every fighter in the top 30 of my weight division, inside and out. I watch a lot of tape. And with Brunson, that's what he does. He comes out in that first round and he puts a lot of pressure on. And it seems like, people might think it's not the smartest thing to do, but he's taken out many opponents. I mean, before he fought Whittaker, he had 4 first-round finishes. He put Whittaker on a lot of pressure, had Whittaker in trouble until he got clipped. And like I said, that's one of his strategies, and it's worked for him. And it's also been to his demise. He gasses out. And I know I might look tired in fights, but my last 3 fights were won in the 3rd round. So for me to come out, yeah, I might look tired, but when I'm in there, I'm ready to go the distance if I have to win that fight. And with Brunson, yes, he's going to come out. I think we're going to see the same Brunson. At the end of the day, he's in there with a younger, stronger, hungrier fighter in myself. And if he comes out with that, that's how I like to come out as well. We're going to have one cracker of a first round, but I don't see this going past 2 rounds. I see this fight ending in the 2nd round. I see him going for it, full speed in that first, and I'll match that full speed, and I'll do it if he wants to. And yes, we'll both be tired come the 2nd round, but then it's going to come down to who wants it more. He's talking about retirement. I'm on my way to the belt, so that question is already answered, and I'll prove it once again.
Well, you are a fan of the sport, so that means you understand how the sport works, and with someone like Brunson, after a loss to Cannonier, this is effectively he knows it's his last run at a possible shot. So you can expect I would say you're expecting a motivated Brunson, but still believing you have all the tools to take care of him.
Yes, absolutely. I don't think he's a lifelong athlete. Yeah. He's a wrestling champion. He's been at the top of the sport. He's been in strike force. He's been all over. He's been in the UFC forever. So he knows how to train, he knows how to compete, and it's a part of his lifestyle. It's not just, he doesn't get in that motivation monkey cycle and gets motivated and not. He always shows up in shape, and he always shows up in the same shape. And that's good for his, he's coming out in good condition, but at the end of the day, he's predictable. And he was talking about, he said he retired after his last fight, and then all of a sudden he says he's coming back. So once you add that thought in my mind, once the fight goes to a place where, let's say, myself and Tavares, myself and Darren Till, myself in so many fights before this, where it comes down to that dark place where I like to say, welcome to the dark place. It's, I welcome you to my home, because that's where I'm comfortable. That's how I train, and I've been there many times, and I've always came out the victor when the fight comes to those dark places where both guys are extremely tired, both guys have every reason to give up, and I just refuse to. And I think that will be shown here at this stage as well. With Brunson, he's contemplating retirement. He already did retire, came back. So what's his motivation to do this? A title run, there's no way he'll ever make a title run, in my opinion. Not at his age, and not after losing to Cannonier. There's no way. I think he has another title run in him. But what I do think he's after is he has 2 fights left to win, to have the most wins in the middleweight history. So I think that's his motivation. And you know, for an athlete, that is a massive, that goes in history books. That's down in history books. So for him, that's a massive accomplishment. But it's not going to happen for him this time around. So he'll have to have at least 3 more fights in the UFC. But you know, when it comes down to you're contemplating retirement, and I have that title in my sights, you know, it's an easy gamble who's going to want it most.
So this is going to be awesome. Let's assess the division together. I see it exactly how you see it in terms of this fight and then a #1 contender fight for yourself. So we know Izzy and Pereira are having their rematch. Then I'm not sure of Cannonier's book, but Whittaker obviously is in the talks with Khamzat, who's not currently ranked, but he has all of that hype behind him. Victorian Dolidze, that could do something to reinforce Marvin's position in the division if he gets a good win, a finish. But how are you seeing it just in terms of who that #1 contender fight might come against? The beaten challenger in the championship match, the winner of Whittaker Khamzat. How are you seeing it?
I honestly see it as if Pereira wins Israel Adesanya again, they're not Izzy is going to be fighting at least 2 or 3 fights before he gets another shot. Whittaker is very deserving of a title shot. It's only lost to Izzy, and I do think that they might, the winner of him and Khamzat, if that fight happens, it makes sense. It makes sense, and it's a fight that I'll be looking forward to. But I would gladly fight either the winner or the loser of that fight for #1 contender. And then, of course, Cannonier. I don't know what their plans are with Cannonier. He's almost like the dark horse right now in the division. I think for Cannonier, he might fight the loser of the fight between Izzy and Pereira if Pereira loses. So if Izzy wins, it makes the UFC's job a lot easier. If Izzy loses, that's going to be hard for them, because then that shuffles up everything. So, and with Marvin Vittori also in there, the top 5 of the middleweight division at this stage is a very, very competitive place to be. Everybody's on win streaks, everybody's winning, and this is my time. This is my opportunity to put up my hand. So I would love to fight the winner of Whittaker and Khamzat if the winner doesn't get a direct title shot to get that title shot. But I'll also be keen to fight the winner between, because I think ranked at #4 is Marvin Vittori now. If he can beat the leader, I would like to have that fight as well. That's a good fight. Obviously, the fight with Paulo Costa would have been great, but right now he's not in the top 5 anymore, so that doesn't even make sense. The Cannonier fight, I don't know, maybe. Cannonier is not a fight that excites me that much. You know, he's almost like he's a great fighter, he's a great athlete, and make no mistakes, he's a beast. He just kind of brings out the boring fighting people a lot of times. You know, he plays safe, and I feel the same way with Israel Adesanya. If you don't work, he's not going to work. And even if you do, he'll play it safe. And you know, it's not impossible to beat at all. It's just not a fan-friendly affair.
For someone like you who's obsessed with the sport, do you kind of just conceive of ways to beat, plot routes to victory for all your potential opponents, even if it could be years and years down the line when you watch them?
Yes, absolutely. Whenever I watch a fight, especially in my weight division, I enjoy watching the fight, but I always do analyze in what way, if I was the opponent, if I'm the guy on the losing side right now, after a round, what changes will I make to beat this guy, and what do I think is my way to victory? And as you go higher up the ladder, that method to victory becomes a lot smaller and a lot more complex. If you're fighting a guy like Whittaker, you're not just going to take Whittaker down and beat him on the ground. He's an incredible wrestler, he's an incredible grappler. If you look at a guy like Izzy, yeah, take him down and keep him on the ground, but how do you do that? Many have tried and many have failed. But, and also with Pereira, if you look at him, trying to get him down to the floor, he is a massive, massive middleweight. And I do think as a fighter, it's very important to have it in your subconscious, even way before, like you said, years before fighting this opponent. Have it in your head and keeping it at the back of your mind. If you were to fight him, what would be the best strategy? And that does change over time. Like a lot of times you see guys that become great strikers, guys that become good wrestlers. But like I said, once you come to the top, to the cream of the crop, top 5 of the division, that path to victory becomes a lot smaller and a lot more narrow and precise to beating some of the best guys in the world. To beat the best guys in the world, you need to be good everywhere. You need to be able to strike with them, wrestle with them, and grapple with them, and find that little place that they didn't prepare for. Find that little space they are not as good as another, and you have to exploit that.
One thing I was actually very curious to find out, because all 4 of your UFC fights have been 3 rounds, and you have gone 3 rounds in the last 2. How equipped are you to still handle the 5 rounds, which I know you were training exclusively for 5 rounds before the UFC? So, #1 contender fight, well, it has to be 5 rounds. Where are you at the moment, just in terms of going 5 rounds again?
Well, a funny story actually. Nobody actually knows that the UFC phoned me about, well, this weekend, 10 days ago.
I do know, to headline the fight night.
To headline a fight night for this weekend's fight night against Derek Brunson. So it was 10-day notice. I would have, when they phoned me the evening around 6 p.m. and I would have flown out the next morning to fight the main event. Myself and Brunson becomes a 5-rounder, and they actually said, if you do this for us, immediate title shot after that if you win that fight. And I didn't even care about that. And they said we can do a catch weight, and we can do only 3 rounds of the main event. I said let's keep it 5, and the catch weight I would have done, because to make that weight on short notice would have been hard. But and I said 100%. I was in, and the fight was basically done, and Brunson just said no. And so it was 2 weeks earlier. So no, that's a big mental win for me. In a way, it shows me that if he wasn't ready 2 weeks prior to this fight, he wouldn't have been ready to fight 2 weeks before the scheduled date. And for him, being at the back end of his career, a main event would have been a great opportunity. He's probably not going to have another main event. He can, but the chances are he won't. So him saying no was a big mental win for me, because I was ready to go. I was so excited to headline my first fight night and put myself in title conversation. And he said no. So and also to say yes to that was a big challenge for me, myself. And I proved to myself that I'm ready and that I'm confident in my ability, firstly, to go 5 rounds, because I believe that would have been a path to victory, to use my conditioning to go 5 rounds. And and he said no. So as if to answer your question, if they have to make myself and Derek's fight 5 rounds for this event, I'm more than willing to take it.
Gigantic card to be on. I don't know if this stage, and this probably will change by the time this flights, where you are on it. I know that constantly changes. The last time I saw you were opening the pay-per-view, then you were the headliner on the ESPN Plus, the undercard. #1, what suits you best? Because I mean, yes, it's nice to be on the pay-per-view, but also the undercard, the headliner, maybe gives you exposure to more people. But just in terms of your personal perspective, what's better?
I always see myself as a main card fighter. Myself and Darren Till being on the main card for a pay-per-view event for the first time, I was actually quite surprised. I've had 4 fights, 3 performance bonuses. So, I've done my part, and I've put on the performances. Now, sometimes on the smaller pay-per-views, it's better for you to fight in the undercard because it's on open television, ESPN Plus and ABC. So you get much more people watching your fights. But I love that main card feel. I love when the arena is completely packed, when you have 25,000 people going actually crazy. That pressure makes me shine. That pressure makes me fight better. I love the crowd. I like the roaring, even if it's booing. I don't care. I just want the noise. So with this card, I honestly think we will be on a main card. On the opening card, we definitely we signed as a main card. And with the UFC, it always changes. But I don't see this changing. I honestly see us opening the pay-per-view main card. And I wouldn't prefer it any other way.
Nice. Well, I hope so as well. In terms of fan recognition, I don't know how it's changed within South Africa, but also outside of our borders. Are you noticing that your stock has risen amongst even maybe the casual fan base?
Yeah, absolutely. In South Africa, the fans are absolutely incredible. The South African fans, everywhere I go, people are just giving words of motivation. People are letting me know they have my back, and it's when I go out there. That's something that I take pride in. I wear that flag on my shoulder. I go out there as the first South African to win 3 in a row, the first South African to be in the top 15, then top 10. And it's breaking new borders for South African MMA and African MMA. Being based in South Africa, not only being an African born, training somewhere else in the world, but African-born, bred, based, and training, residing. It's a big opportunity. It's a big responsibility and a massive privilege for me. So every time I go out there, all the support I get from my fellow South Africans, from my every single person, how sport unites people. That's always my favorite part about sport, and I see that more and more with every fight. How people just come together, and you know, regardless of any adversity we face in South Africa, the people are loving to be South African. Every single person loves it to be a South African. I'm extremely proud to be a South African. And of course now, even internationally, we are being recognized, and people are talking about this crazy South African coming to stir things up in the top of the division.
On that though, with of course the increased recognition, the bigger fights comes more pressure. I know you've spoken in the past about the team you have around here, and the mental aspect of your coaching and the mental coaches that you have just available to you. Can you speak a little bit to that? Because it has been, you know, it has been a lot of pressure, I guess, to take. Things have really exploded for you, so there must be that element that you have to deal with.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, luckily, like I said, I'm so passionate about the sport that I've prepared for this. For the past 10 years, I've been preparing to be at this level. You know, my team, we are handpicked, and we almost found each other. I've been with the same coach, my same team, and a mental coach is something I added in my career very early on. When I became the welterweight champion for UFC back in 2016, I already started working with the mental coach, the same one I'm working with today. And he's also the manager of our team. He works with everybody. He takes care of me in so many personal stuff, and we are not. You
can give a shout out to Henny. Go for it.
Henny Engelbrecht. I mean, that man deserves a shout out. The amount of trouble that he goes to get us 2 fights. Firstly, to sort out all paperwork. You know, fighters. You know, we are fighters at the end of the day. So things are not always in order when it comes to the travelings, when it comes to the doctor's appointments. And then he's the guy that you go to when things are getting troubled. Personal life, in your career, he has a whole team that he looks after, and you know, he just has a way with people, and he's incredibly good at his job. And we wouldn't be here without him. We would have been as far developed as a team without him. The stuff that he takes care of, and he takes care of us as a team, and we are his family, and this is what he does. And so, you know, that's something that I really looked into very early on in my career, is the small stuff. Everybody's strong, everybody's fit, everybody can fight, everybody is good when you get to this level. It's the small things that everybody doesn't do, the small things, the extra. You know, how you eat, how you sleep, your supplementation, your mental training, the kind of stuff that not everybody takes as seriously. That's the kind of stuff that puts you one step above everybody else, and that's what makes the difference between being a #1 contender and being a champion.
And I mean, massive credit to CIT here in Pretoria. But of course, you have a collaboration or another gym that you've been part of for a while, Kilcliff, under Henry Hooft, a coach that I've admired for a long time. Obviously, you have unbelievable training partners there. And I think maybe the one difference, the one element maybe you get there that you might not hear is individuals who have already had to go through this UFC pressure. Has that helped a bit, being able to feed off them and learn a little bit about what it's taken in the past?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a completely different environment when you get there. When I train here, I have the best coaches and team in South Africa in the world. I wouldn't change that for anything. Now, my coach, he's an absolute genius when it comes to the sport, and he's so passionate, and the sacrifices that he makes to travel with us, to be here every day and make us better fighters. It's something that money can't buy. And then, of course, my teammates here, that's where the big difference comes in. When you go to a massive team like that, we have 70 guys when I go over to Florida sparring on the mats. That is insane. In South Africa, we are considered the big gym, and we're close to 20 professional guys. And you know, not everybody can spar with me because I'm quite a big guy. But we've built a team that are super loyal to each other, a team that really wants to see each other go forward. One problem when you have with a team like that is the guy that you're sparring right now is the guy ahead of you in the rankings. You're both UFC fighters. I have sparred with Derek Brunson, but let's say I was still at that gym and they offered me this fight. I most probably wouldn't have been able to take the fight because we're the same team, but you know, with teams like that, they do take fights against each other. That would split a team in half, firstly. Secondly, it would create friction, 100% for a fight camp for the time being. And one thing with those big teams, they have a certain amount of coaches. They have 3 to 4, 5, maybe 6 coaches. But when you have over 100 professionals in the gym, it's impossible for all those coaches to keep an eye on every single guy. So when you're in a fight camp in a big gym, how I would assume is you are training with all the other guys. No, you can't get that individual attention that I'm getting from my team. My team is my family here in South Africa, and when I prepare for fights, that's what I say. Under Coach Henry Hooft, Craig Jones, the team there, there's some guys that I really love there. They're incredible. They're like family to me as well. Whenever I go there, they make me feel so at home. But when I prepare for fights, I come to CIT, the place that I've always known, the place that's always gotten me ready for fights, unlike anybody else. Rene knows my breaking point. He knows how far he can push me. He knows me as a person, because we're not only a coach and athlete, we are friends. And he knows what he can get out of me. He knows when I'm slacking. He knows where I can give a little bit more. And he's honest with me. And that is, at the end of the day, what makes, when I go out there, I trusted my coaching, I trusted my team, and that I'm prepared better than the guy that's standing in front of me. And like I said, going to Kill Cliff, going to Florida and training with these guys, it's absolutely amazing. You know, surrounded by guys like Gilbert Burns, who I extremely admire. I look up to him. That's a guy I can learn from, like you said, mentally take in from these guys. A guy like Michael Chandler, who has a die-hard attitude, who's always, no matter what, train harder, nobody cares, train harder. And being amongst Kamaru Usman, some of the greatest guys to ever do the sport, it absolutely gives you my accreditation of I'm training alongside these guys. I'm not training under them, I'm training alongside them. And you're seeing these are guys that are where I'm still, they've forgotten things where I still need to be at. And it's incredible to have that opportunity. But a lot of people, do almost criticize and say, you need a bigger team, you need more expertise. I don't need anything. I have my team, and we are fighting top 5 in the world, and that has to say something. My team is the best in the world.
One thing I'd love to see a little bit more of, and I have, obviously coming from the broadcast side, unbelievable respect for John Anik. He's one of my favorite broadcasters ever. And they do touch on this occasionally, but I'd like to see a little bit more emphasis, and perhaps you guys can mention it in the fighter meeting, fight week. Putting emphasis on the fact that yes, there's been African champions, African-born champions, but you are the first African, even in the contender conversation, that is training out of Africa. Like they made such a big deal of Brandon Moreno being not the first Mexican champion, but the first Mexican-trained champion, essentially. So for me, I'd like to see a lot more emphasis from the broadcast side put on that, and put on where you're coming from a training standpoint. Yeah,
I absolutely agree. I think it's something that I've said from the first time I stepped in the octagon was, I am the only one. Now Cameron has joined. I am the only African-trained, African-born, and African-residing fighting on the roster. Yes, they had Francis Ngannou, Usman, Israel Adesanya, great fighters, but they were only born here. They don't breathe the air that I breathe. They don't face the adversity we do, and they don't have the privilege of living under the South African and African sun. That's a privilege we have, and that's something I'm extremely proud of. And people are very quickly to say, you need a bigger gym, you need to go to the United States, you need to, like the gyms here aren't adequate enough, you don't have the expertise you need to wrestle with those guys, or to grapple, or to strike. You need better coaching all over the world. This is the best coach. Go to America, this gym is bigger. So they very quickly to criticize what we do here, out of South Africa, in South Africa. But they are not so easy going when it comes to giving the compliments and giving the credit where it's due of what we are doing here in South Africa, and the boundaries that we've broken in a sport that is so young and new in South Africa. And like I said, I don't necessarily want that credit, but I want my gym and the people that's putting so much effort into making this happen. I want the fan base. I want the people that believe in me, that believe in Cameron, that believe in this gym, that believe in South Africa. I want them to get the credit, because look at what we're doing. We are changing the world of MMA. I'm fighting in a style that nobody's ever seen. I'm getting constant comments, and it started out as negative with this guy's fighting like a lunatic too. Wait, this guy, they are onto something. That's not something that I just do. That's something that I was taught by my coach, by my team. That's how we do it here. That's something that we've been working on for years, a style very unique to us, very unique to South Africa, and something extremely unique to CIT that we are going and implementing against the best fighters in the world. And that needs recognition, 100%. And I'm a South African, I'm extremely proud to be one.
I think on the roster, let's just look at middleweight alone, which was, yeah, you're right, something that was originally criticized, but I think in terms of, and I'm not sure that the technical term you might use, but the way you shell up when you're under pressure, it's almost impenetrable, and it's probably the best in the division, and then being able to explode from that. You're right, it's something that guys hadn't seen before. Trevor Giles knows all about it now. Yeah, and I think you are really marketing an African, a South African style to a wider audience, which is phenomenal to see. And I know you still feel like you need to tweak it and clean it up here and there, but that's all about, you know, just continuing on this MMA journey. Yeah, I think that just deserves massive, massive credit.
Yes, absolutely, and all credit to, like I said, my coaching, all three of my coaches. Scotty McIntosh getting me in incredible shape. I mean, you can just look at the shape of me against the other middleweights. They don't look the same. We aren't built the same. Yes, I have those African genes. We are both different, but also the work we've put in this gym. Scotty McIntosh is an incredible strength and conditioning coach. He gets me in an amazing shape. I'm massive for the weight. We have an easy weight cut. I always have a great reload, and that's all because of his expertise. We have Neil Geyser, who is a third-degree black belt in Jiu-Jitsu, who I have the privilege of training with every week. A guy that's competed in Judo and Jiu-Jitsu on the biggest stage in the world. I've coached Morné Visser, who has delivered so many champions, world champions in striking, who is a multiple-time wrestling national champion. A guy that made this style his own. He took his wrestling and his wrestling and striking and made it one. He made it an MMA style, and that's the style that I'm going out there to try and portray as best as I can. And definitely, there's some tweaking to be done. I don't believe we've seen. I think the best we've seen me in the cage was around 60 to 70%. Now the pressure is there. Finding a home in the UFC cage. I said it in the beginning, but now I'm starting to feel comfortable. I feel like I belong there. When the first two fights, it was almost like, I need to, like, people are looking at me funny, you know, the South African guy, nobody knows who I am, nobody respects the skill set, respects what we're doing, respects my name yet, like they did when I fought locally. But now I'm starting to earn that respect. Now I beat Darren Till. And when I stepped into that ring with Darren Till, for the first time I felt like I belong. And for the first time I felt like I'm calm. I'm feeling a calmness that I'm ready to win this battle. It's not that nervous where I feel like, can I do this? No, I knew I could do this. Of course there's nerves, but it's more a calmness of, I'm prepared, better than anyone else, and I deserve to be in this cage with the likes of Darren Till and the likes of whoever has the belt in my division.
And you're also bringing a lot more of yourself to fight week and to, you know, the event itself, even with your style, the weigh-ins. So I personally thought it was really nice to see. We are getting a little bit more of a look into who you are, and, you know, just the audience in general getting to know that aspect of you, which I thought was quite nice.
Yeah, it's always great. It's great to almost educate people on. I try to resemble South Africa as a whole. I try to resemble my family, my upbringing, my parents, my brothers, my team, the people that's played a role in the influence of who I am as a person. That's what I try to portray when I go out there. When I fight, I try to go out there and show the world the work that we've put in, that people put in. I show the world that my father and my mother, they taught me to never give up, that no matter what, how hard things get, you keep on going. And giving up is just not an option. I show them how my brothers supported me throughout this whole journey and still are supporting me throughout this journey. They are my biggest supporters, and how they you know, they're quite a bit older than me, and how they groomed me to be this champion, to be a guy that, yes, I've taken punishment, but I learned to take some punishment. You have two older brothers, you're going to get some punishment. And you know, and just that's how I show my love to them and my appreciation for everything that they've done. And it's great to show the world. And you know, I do believe that the guys that started following me from the EFC days, from the beginning all the way to 2 titles, they've learned, they've gotten to know me as a person, and seeing that I'm not deviating from who I am as a person, seeing that I'm the same guy, the same hungry guy, that I'm just looking for new heights to break, I'm looking for new records to break, and I'm here to put South Africa and African on MMA on the map. We are on the map now, but I just want to put us on top of that map.
Let's wrap up what I've personally enjoyed very much. Awesome conversation talking about African and South African MMA, because it's something I speculated about in the past and was kind of confirmed late last year at one of the presses. We know the UFC is coming to Africa. We're not quite sure of the time frame. Coach Mornay gave me more of an indication. For you, obviously, and I can kind of see where the UFC is coming from this, they would want you somewhere there headlining, co-headlining. So Dricus Du Plessis, build in broad strokes your ideal UFC Africa card.
I honestly believe we're coming to South Africa. They haven't talked about South Africa yet, but I'm going to make it happen. That's what I'm here for.
Too much red tape in places like Nigeria, etc. So, and I think Pretoria, it's got a fight culture just in terms of educated fans who enjoy the sport.
Pretoria has that. We've hosted multiple we've hosted rugby World Cups, soccer World Cups. We have to get the ability to host this event. Now, even Cape Town, Pretoria, Cape Town, that is a. If people won't just be coming for the fight, it's a massive tourist attraction. People come here all the time, all over the world. And that's the event to do. That's the event to do. I do believe South Africa is the only place in Africa they can host this event, and that's where they should host it. And you know, it's not easy to give that message to the directors of the UFC, but the only way I can do it is by winning fights and making noise, and South African fans making noise, and make it impossible for them not to. And I do believe seeing myself fight for that belt in South Africa.
And you don't want to speculate as to against who, but I think we
so
can see
a
few possibilities.
With things, how things are running in the middleweight division at this stage, it's really hard to tell. Ask me again after April and I'll tell you well before.
Yeah, right. But I mean, Izzy Dricus, that could be
amazing.
He's one of the 85 greats.
I would have loved to be the first guy to beat him in the middleweight division and take that belt for him. And he's been an incredible champion. He's really an incredible fighter. He is a really good fighter, and that's why I don't want to beat somebody on their first defense.
Yeah.
That's not really the champion. The champion is the guy who's had the belt for a very long time and beat everybody that's sitting in front of him more than once in Izzy's case. That's what I wanted to do. But no, if he takes this belt back from Pereira, you know, a lot of people can call that first fight they had a fluke, because Izzy was winning that fight until he got caught. So, like I said, if I could fight Izzy for that belt, I would be super thrilled.
Well, he told me a couple of years he would love to headline UFC Africa when I brought it up. So, fingers crossed.
Here we go.